Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa. Let's continue.
The ceremony commenced. A veiled girl stepped forward and with poised determination chose to begin first. The eyes of the gathering turned to her, a mix of intrigue and doubt spreading across their faces. With a cautious tone, the man beside her, holding a rusted medallion, turned in her direction and told her to remain composed and not allow fear to take hold. The veiled girl knelt before him, and while her gaze held unwavering courage, she placed her fingers over her heart, addressed him as Elder Magnus, and calmly requested his trust, promising she would not fail the sacred rites. Magnus kept his eyes on her, and a cunning grin slowly curled on his lips. He promised that if she completed the rite with precision, she would earn her release from servitude and might one day rise to be a guardian of the floating realms. Hearing this, the girl's expression lit up with hope. She vowed to pour her soul into it. Zeren, who stood to the side, watched quietly. His attention remained on the glowing mark at the base of her neck, a symbol designating her as bonded. With an unreadable look, Zeren extended her hand and softly remarked that many lords of the Sky Dominions, upon being stuck at spiritual tier 11, feared losing their family legacies due to weakening influence. For that reason, they explored every path to acquire spirit-bound warriors, often turning to celestial orphanages, as exceptional soul-bearers sometimes emerged from those forgotten places. Zeren said nothing at all, drifting into reflection. While the boy kept staring at the veiled girl with a puzzled expression, Zeren stepped closer to him and with confidence in her voice observed that not everyone possessed the will to shape their own path like Zeren did. Those desperate to protect their fading lineage were often ready to bargain for power no matter the cost. With brows raised in thought, Zeren looked towards Zeren and asked why the noble houses did not nurture talents within their own bloodlines. Zeren closed her eyes and after a moment of thought told Zeren that he was reading too far into it. He remarked that finding a true elemental channeler in a forgotten valley was less likely than drawing the winning rune in the Grand Arcane Rift. He visualized himself hoisting Kale in celebration once the boy claimed victory in the Trials of Balance. He reflected on how he had stumbled across Kale wandering the Ashen Path and brought him back, an event that felt like unearthing an ancient relic of untold power, and the thought made him quietly grin. The astral conduit of judgment roared to life. Towering and luminous, it drew the attention of all. The hooded boy approached the construct and studied it without speaking. Calm and composed, he focused his aura and condensed it into a spectral blade. Then, with care, he sliced across his palm, letting his blood fall. As his eyes blazed with inner fire, he pressed his hand to the astral conduit, and arcs of elemental lightning surged into the ancient stone. Moments later, a single crystal embedded in the conduit pulsed with intense blue light. The audience stared, unsure what to make of it. The boy began to press his fingers to his temple, his face filled with disbelief. He had only triggered one crystal. Elder Van erupted in anger, stomping on the ceremonial stones. Fuming, he called the boy a disgrace and shouted for him to initiate the rotation. He demanded that the boy turn the astral matrix with every ounce of strength he had. Determined, the boy grasped the side of the relic, took a long breath, and resolved to show his full potential. He summoned all the energy within him and turned with force, hoping to awaken the core mechanism of the device. Despite his effort, nothing changed. The astral conduit remained completely still. Silence fell across the gathering, everyone uncertain how to react. But the boy wasn't ready to quit. His eyes lit with fury as he summoned his bonded elemental warden. A colossal spirit emerged beside him. It reached out and began to rotate the ancient device. Witnessing this, Myra's eyes widened, and her mouth parted in astonishment. She recognized its rank, Spirit Level 9, with an aura radius of 7,000 meters, while the renowned Level 10 Obsidian Guardian barely extended to 8,000. His potential was considered decent, but not impressive enough to draw interest from the council gathered nearby. At last, the efforts of the veiled boy began to manifest as the crystal he had triggered earlier started glowing more brightly. Seeing this, Master Alric's eyes lit with satisfaction, and a rare smile appeared across his stern face. He had not expected the crystal to react so strongly. Moments later, a second crystal ignited in radiant color, but the boy collapsed from fatigue. Kale remained still, his gaze fixed on the scene. It became clear to him that engaging the astral conduit fully could drain even a Tier 9 adept entirely. He found the relic's judgment system fascinating. Eldrin, holding his rune staff, approached the boy, raised his arms, and declared that 2 crystals had activated. His life essence rating was marked at Jewel Gleam, which failed to meet the entry threshold. The boy's eyes widened in panic, and sweat began pouring down his face. Alric erupted in fury, cursing the mystic agents. They had sworn the boy held quintuple gleam potential, yet he was barely above common rank. This was outright deception. Alric's men seized the boy by his arms and dragged him toward the crystal cell. His eyes filled with tears, despair taking hold. Meanwhile, the others advanced one by one to face the trial. Kale folded his arms and reflected. There was no reason to hurry. After observation and questioning Myra, he had come to understand the grading scale of the astral conduit. The moment blood touched the surface, the relic assessed one's life essence. White signified a basic spark. Blue meant dawnlight tier. Yellow represented mid-tier flare. Red was reserved for the legendary Sunfire grade. So far, dawnlight had been the peak observed. Those who failed left the circle in silence, bitter and drained. Only a few reached dawnlight, drawing fleeting interest, but none had made the examiners declare approval. A silent warrior with long hair approached the conduit. He raised both hands, eyes full of willpower, and directed his force into the relic. His energy surged, sweeping the field. Others shielded their faces as the wind howled. The conduit spun wildly. First, one crystal glowed. Then, 6 more flared in succession. Eldrin smiled faintly, raised his arms, and announced the life essence reading. Dawnlight tier, 7 gleams, sufficient for entry. Shock gripped the crowd. No one could believe what they had witnessed. An elder beside a noblewoman with silver markings stepped forward toward the warrior named Corrin. Stroking his beard, the elder praised Corrin and said he had never doubted him. He declared that from now on, no one would stand between Corrin and Lady Celia. He placed his hand on his daughter's back and smiled, promising to arrange their marriage upon their return. He told Celia to go and greet her future husband. Corrin said nothing. Celia turned and nodded shyly. With a hesitant smile, she stepped toward him to offer her congratulations. But instead of embracing her, Corrin simply raised a hand in refusal. His voice was cool as he said no more words were needed. He told the noble that the matter no longer concerned them, as he and Celia were never meant to be. After delivering his final words, Corrin turned away and began walking into the distance. The eyes of Celia and her father widened in disbelief, caught between confusion and silent shock. Celia, overwhelmed by emotion, broke down in tears, unable to understand why Corrin had chosen to leave like that. Her sorrow quickly turned to rage, and she launched herself at her father, cursing him and screaming that everything was his fault. The nobleman froze, visibly distressed, unsure how to respond. Corrin moved past them, his footsteps steady, and walked by Kale without a glance. Kale observed him calmly, and with a thoughtful tone, noted how familiar the pattern was. The forgotten one becomes the one they can never reach. Folding his arms, Kale explained to Myra that this was the very risk of nurturing talent from within one's own walls. Once greatness was achieved, the same hands that lifted them could be the first they turn away from. That was why, he said, it was essential to evaluate not just strength, but loyalty and depth of character. Myra stepped closer, her eyes full of quiet interest, and began to ponder his words. She scratched her chin and remarked with a half-smile that the noble had gambled everything on his daughter, only to lose both pride and plan. For her, it seemed typical, and she questioned what this so-called character even meant anymore. She then turned to Kale and asked what he thought of his own. Kale slung an arm around her shoulder, extended his other hand, and grinned. He said anyone who still took time every cycle to message their distant family across galaxies couldn't be that bad. Even if they were, it only reflected the values passed down in the lunar clans, something Kale deeply respected. The young woman lowered her gaze, quietly reflecting. Kale then looked toward Myra with amusement and gestured toward the stage. He told her to focus on Gale, for it was finally his turn, and he was the true centerpiece of the entire gathering. Everyone else was simply background noise. With a spark of curiosity, Myra raised her head. Gale stepped forward and began approaching the trial circle with steady steps and an air of quiet confidence. Awayan asked him to give it his all. Gale's eyes gleamed, and he gave a simple nod. He closed his eyes and began drawing power, condensing his energy into a single point at his brow. In moments, a third eye formed at the center of his forehead. As waves of crimson energy erupted around him, Gale extended his arm, prepared to demonstrate his strength. The audience grew silent, fully aware that this challenge had been crafted with Gale in mind. He was descended from the legendary Orenvire, a level 13 sentinel, and everyone present wondered what kind of latent force he would unveil. When Gale spun the astral wheel, the embedded crystals began to shine with golden brilliance. The other participants felt dread crawl up their spines as sweat broke across their foreheads. They knew this was no ordinary display. Seeing that it was the radiant moon tear, Aoyan remained composed. It was within expectations. Gale was never meant to be average. With outstretched hands, fire began to burst from Gale's form, and slowly, his spiritual avatar emerged. Growing steadily in size, the towering figure shimmered with flame until it dwarfed all around it. The astral will seemed like a mere ornament beside it. Kale's expression shifted in, or as he realized the avatar had reached an astonishing height of 50,000 meters. That marked the end of the segment. If you're eager to witness what unfolds next, don't forget to follow and stay tuned for the continuation.